Hello! So I'm holding this in front of my face because I forgot to record an intro and I don't want to spoil the final look. But today we're doing a 3 looks 1 palette with the Artemis palette. So let's just jump on in. Okay, so most of this is sped up to 4 times because it's a ton of blending. So I started out with the shade Trap, which is one of the cream to powder shades, and as you can see, I'm just building it up with a fluffy brush. You have to get quite a lot of product on the brush to get that built up. Once that was completed, I went in with the shade Snare, which is just a traditional powder, and built that up with a slightly denser brush just so I could make sure that it was really concentrated. But this is also a really, really great blending brush. And I just kind of patted it on and then blended it out as needed, and then went back in with the shade Trap just to make sure everything was blended out smoothly. And then just using my finger, I went in with the metallic shade Pounce just to give it a little extra something. And then I just applied the shade Ambush to the lower lid. And then I took a tiny blending brush and used Trap just to blend that out. And then added some blue liner off camera to the waterline. So for this second look, I'm starting out with the shade Entice and blending that into the crease as one does. This is just one of the normal powder shadows, so it blends pretty quickly. Then I took a slightly denser brush with the shade Silent and started to apply that to the inner and outer corners and into the crease. Just building that up. This is a cream to powder shadow, so you'll see it takes me a little bit to get it built up to the color that I like, but it looks so nice and blends so beautifully and so easily. I love it so, so much. Then I am taking the shade Prowl and the same brush and just kind of going back over everything, just building that up a little more. And then I use that same brush to apply Prowl to the lower lash line, and it does still have some of that Silent color on it as well, and just kind of blended that out. Then I'm going to go in with the shade Thrill that's just a tiny bit darker and just go back over everything that I've already done. So I started to apply the shade Quest here, but it was not working, so I quickly switched to the shade Speak and applied that with my finger and blended it out a tiny bit. And it looked nice, but it still wasn't giving me that pop of the halo eye that I really wanted. So I grabbed my NYX glitter glue and applied that to the center of my lid just with my finger, kind of patting it out, prepping the area, and then went back with the shade Spear and patted that on just to really get that glow. Okay, so here are looks 1 and 2, or I guess it's 1 and 2. I'll just kind of do this so you can get a better feel for what it looks like with a full face. This lip doesn't particularly match either of them very well, but I did my best. I just tried to pick something nude, and it was not a good nude for either. But I really like both of these looks. This one is obviously like a much more bright and bold, like kind of summertime look. I don't really know if I would wear this into fall, but I feel like this one is something that I would wear year round. Olive is a color that I really love, and I feel like you can kind of make it work with any season, which is really nice. I do wish this one was like a little bit grungier just because of my personal taste, but honestly there's not anything in this palette that would have taken it there. I thought about adding this shade Lure, but I think it's just a little bit too warm. So I kind of had to stick with those 3 kind of grungy greens that are in the palette. Obviously this is not like an olive palette, so it's not like shocking to me that it doesn't have a ton of variety there. So yeah, on to look number 3, I suppose. Okay, so the shade that I'm using here is Hunt. It's the shade that I'm going to be using for pretty much this whole look. As you can see, this is really fast. I'm speeding this up to 4 times because honestly, it's just a ton of blending. You're just going to see a lot of just like patting and blending and redoing things until it's built up to the color that I like. A lot of just kind of sweeping it through the lid. There I'm putting it on the lower lash line and into the crease a little bit more, building up more on the cheek and the temple. And then here I'm going in with that gold shade Spear, just with a small pencil brush to do a little bit of accenting on the inner corner of the eye, up into the lid just a little bit, and then on the brow bone as well. Just wanted some kind of interesting placement so that it wasn't just a matte look all the way throughout. And then here you'll just see I'm doing a couple more finishing touches with those same brushes and the same products. And this is the finished look. I know that this is not going to be for everyone, so it's totally okay if you're not a fan, but you know, you don't have to tell me, you can just like keep it in your heart. But I really like it. I feel really like ethereal, I guess. I always love how mustard tones look on me, and I just think this is a really unique way to wear eyeshadow. The older I get and the more my like eye shape changes, I'm not so interested in like kind of the traditional like Instagram placement for makeup, right? Like my eyes don't have that like swooped out. I can't really do cat eye anymore because of the way my eyes are. So it's important for me to just kind of get creative and try new things. So I really love that. I love that I only had to use 2 shadows to create this look, and it really wasn't that hard. Oh, I'm jumping back in because I want to kind of tell you guys how I finished out this look, because I think that it's important to add those little finishing touches. So I actually used this Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blush in the shade Dim Infusion. I guess I should open it. To just kind of buff out the yellow and just blend it into my natural skin tone a little bit more, so that, I mean, obviously it's not a natural look, but it just kind of needed that little bit of something. And something like this is a great way to do that because it's so light and almost has no pigment that like it was really easy for me to do that. If you don't have a really light for your skin tone neutral blush, you could maybe even do it with a really light for your skin tone bronzer, just with a really light hand, because you don't want to go too heavy. You don't want to darken the areas around the yellow. And then I did my normal brow, but I do think that this calls for a really dark bold brow. So if you're not typically a bold brow person but you try this look, I might encourage you to do that. Also, I think this would look really cool with like a faux bleached brow. That's something that I've never tried before, but I may give that a go. So that's where we're at. That is 3 looks from the Artemis palette. I will say, after trying to create 3 looks with this, I still love this palette. I still like the 3 looks that I created, but it does, a lot of the shades the same to me, or really similar. Like there's a lot of oranges and golds, so it's kind of hard to create like totally unique looks with those. But also there's not a lot of dark shades in there. You've got the 2 blues, which those you can't use to deepen everything, right? You can't like deepen an orange look with a blue. And then it's got this green, which same thing. And so really the only thing you've got to deepen is this Lure shade, which is like a darker, more like a mid-tone reddish brown, or these 2 kind of olivey tones, Prowl and Thrill. So that's kind of my only qualm with this palette, is I think that I wish there was a little bit more dimension in the deeper, or a little bit more variety, I guess, in the deeper tones. But I still really love it. It's a beautiful palette. I just found myself getting stuck because I was trying to find like 3 really unique color schemes. Like I did one orange and blue, so it's like, okay, well, I've got that. And then I did the olives, and then I was like, well, what do I do for a 3rd one? So that's kind of how we landed here. So yeah, I hope you liked this. This is my first time doing a 3 looks 1 palette, but now that I'm kind of on this no buy, low buy journey, I anticipate more of this kind of content. So let me know if you like this. I hope you do. And if you do, make sure to subscribe, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye.